Mike's Daily Podcast.
All right, hold on. This button is not pressed correctly. Okay.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I am getting configured here at Cafe Anyway. I haven't done this show in a couple of days. It's kind of crazy, I have to say, because I have to sit here at Cafe Anyway, and I'm the tech guy, the producer guy, the voice guy, the mic guy. I'm Mike, by the way. How are we doing? Hi. We'll just get this show on the road because
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It's late. It's almost 10 o'clock at night. I meant to start this dang thing way earlier, but
Mike's
I got
Daily
distracted
Podcast
with laundry and stuff. So here we go. Folks, there's so much to tell you about in this world of Cafe Anyway and Mike's Daily Podcast and Podcaster Valentino, the last place on earth. I think I might, in fact, I think I already know the podcast picture for today. I went on a special Mike excursion with Basil the Boxer, who will bark for you momentarily. And there's this cool place in Podcaster Valley that's got, oh, I hate how my camera phone is all glary. Oh, it's terrible. I have got to get rid of this phone. The camera on it, it just can't handle light anymore. It turns it into this burst. And you don't have this problem, do you? With your smartphone. I know a guy that doesn't even have a smartphone. He's got a flip phone. And that's fine with him. He says, I don't need all the bells and whistles. Because that's too much technology for my simple life. Can you simplify that much? I mean, when things get crazy, when things get out of hand, you must simplify. There's no two ways about it. You must go, I have to chuck the podcast. I can't do it anymore. There's not enough time.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Well, it's a picture with a bunch of glare in it. I know that for sure, because it's going to be one of my pictures off my phone. Dang, stupid thing. Well, you know what? We'll deal with that. We'll cross that bridge in a moment. Oh, I should post a picture of Senorita bread. There's a place called Star Bread, apparently, in Newark that makes this insane bread that it looks like a hot dog bun, a really small hot dog bun, but it's been doused in butter, basil butter. No, you don't want it to be doused in basil butter. No. But yeah, that was Basil the Boxer. I should post a picture of the wonderful steak that I made over the weekend. I took chuck steak and grilled it. But first, you have to, with chuck steak, with that chuck meat that cut, it's so thick and hard to, you have to tenderize it. And nothing works better than putting it in a nice sealed off bag with a bunch of red wine or teriyaki sauce or some kind of a nice marinade. Look one up online. But basically, it needs to sit in this marinade for a day. And that's what I did. I put it in the Ziploc bag. There you go. Let's go with the podcast picture of Point Isabel. Oh, how I love Point Isabel in Richmond. And we got to take Basil the Boxer there. And I don't have a picture of him for today's show, but we will get a podcast picture for you very soon. Oh, North Korea fired projectiles from around Wonsan, South Korea military. North Korea fired at least 2 unidentified projectiles early on Thursday from an area near Wonsan on North Korea's eastern coast. Okay. That's no Instagram for Brad Pitt, apparently, and I think we can learn something from that. And who else? Puerto Rico, Ricardo Roseo finally announced that he is leaving. He did some really nasty, awful, disgusting brohame tweets. And, well, it just went a little overboard. Oh, but our president tweets like that all the time, and he's still in office. Well, we haven't quite gotten to the streets to riot like the frickin' Puerto Ricans have. They said enough, and they went out there. And my lovely lady friend is Puerto Rican, and she is Puerto Rican American. Well, wait, that's the same thing. They're part of America. It's a commonwealth. It's complicated. It's complicated. No, what the deal was, everybody came out and protested in every possible way to get this guy out of office, and now he is. And he made fun of Ricky Martin. Ricky Leaks was one of the things. We got to get my lovely lady friend on. She can explain the whole Ricky Leaks thing. But yes, Ricky Martin, she booms, she bangs, she booms, she booms. Yeah, something like that. Ricky Leaks is something what? Oh, it has to do with Ricky and Morty somehow. All right, well, we won't go there. However, we will go into this particular area about how some folks love confrontation. Oh, back to those quickly. The Senorita bread before we get into confrontation. Senorita bread. Yeah, I mentioned the doused in butter part. Inside, honey. Yes, honey is on the inside. Fat. Okay, you know how in this world people say, oh, that person, he's just not, he's not confrontational. He won't confront so-and-so over this and this and take care of the situation. And that's the problem. They won't confront. And you know, there is a time for confrontation. And one thing that I've learned over the past year is in my managerial position that I've done now for over half a year. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing a Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcast Arlington. There is a way to confront people over issues that need to be confronted about. I get really upset when stuff is not talked about and pushed under the rug. And it goes on, and the same things happen over and over. And that is what, if you have any problems with confrontation, that's the alternative, my friend, is what happens is the same thing happens over and over and over. And you become one of those mice that keeps shocking themselves so they can get the meal. Isn't that what happens in that experiment, that lab experiment? The mice do the same thing over and over again. The definition of insanity and all that. The thing is, we just, at some point, have to draw the line and say enough. And we force ourselves. And you know what? What's interesting is 9 times out of 10, I might be off slightly with my numbers, but 9 times out of 10, the person you confront is their behavior that's outlandish, they're going to back down with it. They're going to take it down a notch. They're going to listen to you. However, I was married to someone who had aspirations of becoming a psychologist at one time. And, well, let's just say she tended to psychoanalyze me from time to time. We get along now. We don't see each other. She's far, far away. She's got a happy, great life, and I wish her all the best. But when I was married, I seemed to always get psychoanalyzed by her, and she would say things like, well, you know, why don't you tell me this? Why don't you tell me that? Why don't you tell me when I do this? When this irritates you, when this upsets you, why don't you tell me? Why don't you tell me? Why don't you confront me? And I would be like, well, you know, now she's confronted me about my not confronting her. And now we've got a whole other confrontation. Let's just say this happened over and over and over again, and nothing ever got resolved. And now we're divorced. And she's happy, I think, with her new life. And I hope that she's not having to confront people or have to go constantly confronting people. At some point, if you're confronting someone way too much, that's not healthy either, because then that's not a calm, relaxing relationship. You're coming home from work and you're back into a confrontation mode. You're back at, there's no relaxation. There's a time to deal with things. You need your recovery time. I don't even remember, what was the thing I talked about a couple weeks ago, where we have a reservoir of a reservoir, yes, it's the correct way of saying it. We've got this energy that helps us, inspires us, gets us through, and sometimes that gets so depleted, that tank becomes completely empty. And when you come home from work, when you've had to confront a bunch of people, when you've had to do a lot of work, and you now have to confront the one you love over something, that's not good. There needs to be a time, a rest period, and then you can go into that. There has to be a time. Now, I don't know where that is. I'm not a professional. I don't know when that is. And anywho, there are some people that need to be confronted, because when they are, these people that are depleting our energy because they are so self-involved or whatever, we have to, at some point, confront them and make them understand the situation, that we're not happy. And if they don't understand that we're not happy, then, well, maybe they need to get the hell out of our lives, or just become compartmentalized to such an extent that it doesn't interfere with our lives. But I'm not a professional. I can't go any further than that. I will tell you, speaking of rejuvenating and replenishing the batteries, that's exactly what I did on Sunday. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed at home. My lovely lady friend and I hung out together with Basil the Boxer, and I cooked a steak, this chuck steak that I'd marinated all day. It was delightful. Where was I, Mike? Why wasn't I invited? Well, I didn't have that big of a piece. There wouldn't have been enough for you. At any rate, it's great to just barbecue and, I don't know, get in touch with my inner man, caveman man, my primitive, and using some fire and coals, and it tastes so good. I threw some hickory on it, which hickory isn't supposed to work exactly with beef. It's more of a pork thing, pork and chicken, but I did it anyway. What the hell? And that is my summer so far, and why I could not podcast on Sunday, and I couldn't do it on Monday because, well, I tried to get to bed early. And Basil left me a present at 4 o'clock in the morning that I had to take care of, and that sleep got tossed and trying to catch up with sleep. And here we are on Wednesday, and I had some time to chat with you and do this podcast and hopefully inspire you. But Point Isabel is in Richmond, if you ever get to Richmond, and Richmond gets a bad rap for a lot of reasons, but this area along the bay is absolutely beautiful, and you get a view of Mount Tamalpais, of Tiburon, of Angel Island, Alcatraz, Golden Gate Bridge, you name it. It's all there. It's wonderful. And then you get to see dogs running around, acting like little children. And Basil the Boxer went quite far, despite the fact that his back legs are, well, he needs help from his friend. He needs a little help from his friend to carry him along. This is interesting. So real quick, this guy, all right, so I get bad comments from time to time when I'm walking my dog, because a lot of people, they find it unusual, but Basil's front part works fine. The back part needs me to carry him along. And I've occasionally had one idiot person said, "That's a weird way of walking your dog." Idiot. And then there was someone just yesterday, this old lady, she says, "How are his poopies? How are his poopies?" That was the question. And I think that's a question for all of us. Hey, I don't want to know the answer, But there are some people out here of Cafe Anyway, which, by the way, Mike's Daily Podcast, if you haven't read, is based on a show that I did for 11 years in Ventura County, near Los Angeles in Southern California. And these are characters made famous on Ventura County radio. Hey, let's say hi to some. Hello, Michael Master. It's Madame Rootabega. How are your poopies? Woo. That's good. That's a good one. Look who else is here.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we just want to say that this podcast is great and that everyone should listen to it, no matter what the heck is going on with their poopies there.
Yeah, they're poopies. Do you know that? Enough. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer. What do you think about confrontation? What's your way of dealing with it? You can call me, 336MM Daily. 336MM Daily. There is a special greeting there when you call that, and you can only hear the greeting if you call 336MM, as in Mike Matthews Daily, as in this podcast, this daily sort of, kind of, well, what? 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews Daily, as in what this show should be. I'm trying. I'm working on it, as middle-aged man once said. Look it up. It was Mike Myers. Very funny. So I'm working on it. Anyway, Cafe Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll do it soon. 336MM Daily. Take it away, Ariel.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
And that was episode 1874, 1874 from Podcastro Valley, not Podcastro Valleyton. I stand corrected. Actually, I'm sitting next to the washing machine. When will these clothes dry?